Good day, gentle viewers. It's been a while. I have spent far too long making a, for me, monolith video about Death Note, and then I had to simmer down and recover from that for a bit. Hence the relative radio silence. But now that that is out the door, and I've spent a good chunk of time slogging my way through the new anime season in preparation for an overview video that we will be releasing on the channel fairly soon, I figured it would be good to pop in and take a gander at some news stories from the last little while that I felt the need to talk about, or at least mention for a couple of reasons. Plus, taking a look at the new seasonal rankings never hurt either. Like most of my seasonal thoughts have already been kind of written down, and it's just a matter of tidying up that script and then getting down to filming it and editing it and putting it up on the channel. But seeing if I'm on the mark with other people and other opinions on those shows would be worth checking, I think. So without any further ado, I am Tristan Gallant and welcome to Glass Reflection. Let's jam. Let's start off with the kind of announcement news that I love to see. Laid Back Camp has confirmed that its third season will be airing next year in April. Yuru Camp, or Laid Back Camp, has been one of my favorite shows since the original season aired many, many years ago now, which makes me feel slightly old. And even after 2 existing seasons and a movie, I am nowhere near content with the amount that we have gotten for this show, and thus, even though it is still like half a year until it comes out, I am still super excited, and you should be too, as long as you have similar interests to myself. Really, I am feeling content, though, right now with the wait, because it's like 6 months, because we got several shows right now that are scratching similar itches as Laid Back Camp does for me, but we'll get to that shortly. Moving on. Hayao Miyazaki, confirming to any lingering doubters that water is indeed wet, has once again begun working on a brand new feature film at Studio Ghibli. Despite his most recent film, The Boy and the Heron, being touted by some as his final film, after they also claimed that The Wind Rises would be his final film and so on and so forth, he is again in the director's chair, to the surprise of hopefully nobody. It's been like a running joke for over a decade now that the man will never actually retire, and I really hope that this cements to any remaining holdouts that Miyazaki will work until he is physically unable to. And by that I mean when he's dead, which is in some ways okay and in other ways terrible, because getting more films from him, as long as he wants to make them and is not like being forced to do them by some weird vindictive god, it's wonderful, because they are always such this like range of experiences and animation, and it's all worth witnessing. But if he works until his literal deathbed, then I worry what will happen with his actual final film. Considering how that's ended up working with some other directors in the past, I would only assume that what would end up happening if he unfortunately passed away in the middle of a production is that we might get a title and some production sketches, but then everything else would be locked away because he would not be able to oversee the project at all. Though I suppose we should be thankful for the works that we do end up getting from him and get the pleasure to watch, and hopefully he is taking good care of himself. This is a bit older news, but a worthwhile public service announcement, I thought, specifically for viewers in the United States. Crunchyroll has settled on a class action lawsuit that will see US users entitled to a payment. Legal battles are long and tedious, so I'm not actually going to attempt to bore people with huge amounts of details on this case. However, while still not admitting fault, Crunchyroll is settling on this case that sees the claim that they disclosed personal information of their users to third parties in violation of the Video Privacy Protection Act. People from only the United States who were registered users of the Crunchyroll website, mobile app, or any service/app that is owned and or controlled by Crunchyroll between the dates of September 8th, 2020 and September 20th, 2023 are eligible for an equal portion of the settlement fund, currently anticipated to split down to around $30 US a person, though that exact amount can and will fluctuate, could be more, could be less. If you think that you qualify, you should have already actually received an email about the settlement with instructions on how to proceed. Being from Canada, I personally am ineligible for this, so I don't have a personal story for you about how I went about filing a claim and doing all that wonderful jazz. But if you are one of the above mentioned users and you have received an email with your claim information, good for you. It would have been sent to whatever email you use with your Crunchyroll account. And of course, check your spam and trash folders and things like that. There is no official information on what to do if you haven't received an email. I did find one form that people could potentially fill out, one that didn't seem to be requiring any existing information. However, it also had a section about confirming your involvement in this under threat of perjury. So not being a lawyer and definitely not offering any legal advice of any kind here, I'm not going to link that form. I don't want people to be charged with perjury. Crunchyroll continues to maintain its innocence, of course, and has denied any kind of wrongdoing on their part, but this settlement just seems to be the easiest way for them to get out of any semblance of legal and financial obligations, since they probably don't want to, continue on a long and involved legal battle. But in any case, check your email. But before we continue, I wanted to give shoutouts to supporters of this channel over on Patreon. Because yes, this video is not sponsored by any third party, and the more support we get over there, the less sponsors like Last Reflection will need at any given time. So an immense thank you, especially to patrons like Omar Showman, Sailor Arashi, Hector Montemayor, City Yamako, Ryfen Bonaparte, and Ross Emerson. We can't continue this without your support, so however much you are able to help, I am eternally grateful. All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the show, where we get to look over the trending chart, thanks to our friends over at Anime Trending. This is all public information, and there'll be a link in the description so that you can follow along if you so wish. So we are on week 2, despite the fact that many shows have already had their 3rd episode, and in some cases, Frieren, far beyond that, already released. But it's enough for us to kind of get a little bit of a taste on what people are feeling about this existing anime season. Of course, my entire full thoughts will be coming out very soon, maybe before the end of the month, maybe as soon as the new month kicks over, not entirely sure. There's a lot of stuff to talk about because there's like 30 some odd plus shows, and I've been trying not to completely burn myself out from watching them. So while I am taking my time with that, we're going to continue down the list. So according to Anime Trending, the current #1 anime of this season is Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Thank God. I actually forget that this is a Madhouse production because it doesn't feel like a Madhouse production, but my God, does it feel good to have Madhouse back in the saddle. And it's an absolutely wonderful show. I love Frieren. It has been my definite favorite for the year, although there is another one that won't be on this chart at all because its first 3 episodes only came out this past weekend, and that's Apothecary Diaries. It's not on this chart at all. I'm very curious as to where it's going to land. I hope it lands somewhere in the top 5, but we'll see. Very happy that Frieren's there. It's one of my favorites, and yay, with this gets to be another season where like my favorite anime of the season is actually in the top 5 and not like 20 entries down or something. That's great. A couple of season 2 shows from Eminence and Shadow and Spy Family in 2nd and 3rd respectively. I'm in love with the Villainess at 4 is actually very surprising to me because it's like, okay, well, there are a lot of sequels here because apparently this is even better than Jujutsu Kaisen, which is tied in 5th based on how Anime Trending does rankings here. And I'm really liking I'm in love with the Villainess. I think that it's a very interesting take on the villainous subgenre after so long of having just kind of the same thing over and over and over again. There is another villainous show from the season that I'm also really liking, and I'm curious to see where that's going to be. So we're going to get to that in a second. The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, I am disappointed at it being in the top 5. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But then again, I'm just not a big fan of harems in general, and if someone tries to argue with me that this is not a harem, you're wrong. You have a guy and 100 girlfriends. Like, I doubt we're actually going to see 100 individual characters show up in the show, but the general gist of the idea is that he will inevitably have 100 girlfriends, and they're all fine with this because God made it so or something. No thank you, not the biggest fan personally. Undead Unluck comes in 6th. It's good to see David Production in the top 10. Glad that that's there. Also, Undead Unluck is Shonen Jump, right? Yes, it is Shonen Jump. It is Shonen Jump. No problems there. And also no actual surprise that a Shonen Jump property makes it to the top 10 because, historically they've done really well. And I've been reasonably enjoying it, as much as I do with most Shonen Jump things. Just because it's from Shonen Jump doesn't mean that I'm gonna personally enjoy it, but I can at least see the overall popularity. Shy coming in at number 7 is surprising. I don't mind Shy. I think there's I think it's a pretty good series. There's a couple of world building things that I'm very curious about, and I'm hoping that future episodes will touch upon. I'm not extremely positive towards it in my video that will be upcoming, but I'm not negative against it either, because I really do like the character of Shai, the hero Shai, as she attempts to save everybody in Japan because she's the only Japanese hero. Moving into 8th with Paradox Live, the animation. I mean, I've generally been against almost any show that has the animation in the title because it's usually part of some other big, larger mixed media thing, which also makes me very surprised that it's in the top 10 here. I guess that anime trending fans are really into the Paradox Live kind of franchise, I guess is the right way to describe it. I've barely heard about it until this animation project got announced, which makes sense because I don't generally follow anything unless it has an anime adaptation of some semblance or form. But apparently a lot of people are really enjoying that, alongside Shield Hero Season 3, which apparently dropped 4 places from last week. That's very interesting to me. But then again, I don't remember Shield Hero being talked about all that much ever since Season 1. I feel like Season 1 kind of filtered out anybody that gave a crap about the show, and anybody that is still watching it, they don't generally talk about it, they just kind of enjoy it silently. Good for them. Dr. Stone New Worlds Part 2 comes in and is finally at number 10th, which means that a not insignificant amount of this top 10 is all sequels, essentially, which is very depressing for me because I have a lot of favorites. I have a lot of shows that I'm actually following. And if we just go down, I mean, even slightly, Our Dating Story is in 14th. I'm quite happy with that. I'm actually really enjoying 19 and 20 for different reasons. One is basically this weird combination of Code Geass and BBC Sherlock, and then number 20, Kingdoms of Ruin, just has a lot of really great world building to it. I don't know, I saw some Elfen Lied comparisons, or at least I saw some things that reminded me of Elfen Lied, but maybe that's just because you got the main character that was tied up and thrown into a prison because he can literally kill everybody if he wants to. That was very interesting. Tier Moon Empire in 21st is the other villainous show that I really wanted to get to, and I am surprised it is this far down compared to Falling in Love with a Villainess. I kind of put them kind of on an even playing field in my mind. They are both essentially villainous stories, though Tier Moon Empire does away with any of the bishoujo aspect of it. It's not a reincarnation story in the traditional sense. It's not featuring a main character that comes from the modern world that played a bishoujo game and now is either the villainess or has fallen in love with the villainess. Tier Moon Empire is pure fantasy about essentially a Marie Antoinette character who ends up getting guillotined at the end of her life and then wakes up multiple years before that and realizes, hey, I'd like to keep my head, please. So she kind of stops being selfish little brat and tries to fix her kingdom. And going down through the rest of the list, all of it seems, I mean, pretty okay. I'm kind of happy where some of them are. The other comparison shows that I wanted to briefly mention is that in number 36, you had Overtake, and in number 41, you had MF Ghost. Now, I'm enjoying MF Ghost a little bit more than Overtake, but that's because it's essentially a sequel to Initial D. And if you're not the biggest fan of Initial D, I totally understand why you would not give two craps about MF Ghost at all. But Overtake, for me, I think I like MF Ghost a bit more because I feel like I can get more involved in the actual racing to it. Overtake, I really don't care about F4 racing, like at all, but I will say that Overtake's individual characters and its actual story with the characters thus far, with the few episodes that we've gotten, is far better than MF Ghost. And as far as like continuing this list all the way freaking down, I'm surprised that Bullbuster is as down as far as it is. Like, I'm not gonna sing its high praise, like it's in 50th place here on this list. I'm not gonna sing its high praises saying that it's an absolutely fantastical, amazing series, but I did quite enjoy what is essentially Patlabor versus Kaiju and a lot of other things. There are a lot of really nice things in Ballbuster. I keep calling it Ballbuster. It's Bullbuster, my God. I made a joke. I'm going to make a joke in the script about screwing that up, and of course, I'm just continually doing it now. I am legitimately surprised, though, that it's only in 50th. I thought it would probably be in the top half somewhere. But to the surprise of like nearly no one, the lowest ranked non-sequel, Kami Erebi God.app is in 52nd place. And personally speaking, I think it deserves to be there. I've already spoken to at least one other person who says that it is far better, probably because he enjoys watching trash fires. But no, that's perfectly fine being where that is. So for the time being, that has been week 2 of the anime trends chart. Hopefully Frieren can stick in first place for the vast majority of this season. If it gets surpassed by anything, I would be perfectly fine with it getting surpassed by Apothecary Diaries when it finally makes it to this list, hopefully next week. And we will have to see how that goes from then on. And that is it for our show today. So subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and until next time, whenever that happens to be, because I know these news videos are irregular, and that's just the way that it currently is. Until next time, watch more anime and stay frosty.